Right.
So
that requires a certain skill set that's above your.
And you need a cool haircut. I found out too, which he has.
Yeah, definitely. That I saw the picture. Yeah. I don't know. Even I can't pull that off.
Right. Well,
that's ponytail plus.
It was like it reminded me of like a Chinese pagoda Buddha kind of. There's some kind of Chinese.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of guys like that with they're waving some kind of spear or star or some kind of crap like that.
So with that, we'll take a break. We'll come back in a little bit more
music stuff.
Here's one of my favorite Billy Cobham songs. Dig on this a little bit, and we'll be back in a second.
See, this is hi-fi, okay? High fidelity. You know what that means? That means this is the highest quality fidelity. Hi-fi. Those are two very important things to have in the stereo system.
Join me, Kim Tracy, on High Fidelity for a mix of music with a focus on newer music and lesser-known artists every every Thursday at 2 p.m. on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC and streaming with the iHeartRadio and TuneIn apps.
Your car not running right? Let the Motor Mounts help you out at 516-572-7440.
Oh, you got to see the fingers and arms flying in the studio. Motormouth Radio Central here with Ray Guarino, Joe D.
We do have to get the video just because what goes on in the breaks traditionally has always been some of the coolest stuff. But, definitely there's a little bit of air guitar, air drums.
You can swing some drumsticks, and I definitely play an air bass because I like to...
Exactly.
I like to do a little Trent Reznor stuff there. I kind of dig that. If you don't move with this stuff, you're dead. So
seriously,
stick with us. We'll keep you programmed with the good music and the good car talk at 516-572-7440. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention another show on the station, Secrets of Success, which is on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. You can listen to my CPA's friend, Bill Horan, who'll help you uncover the hidden talents to maximize your individual successes in life. So check that out Wednesdays at 4. And we will go back to automotive talk. I guess it's my turn now. I was... My crowning success this week, I was working on that Camaro again, Joe.
Oh, yeah, that one with the steering issue, I think it was.
Yeah, okay. The steering pump, power steering pump went out to powersteering.com to be rebuilt. That's the place that did the box.
Yeah.
And while I'm waiting for that, he also complained, I saw... you look under the hood. I said, who put that stupid flex hose on there that's kinked?
Oh, yeah, you showed me that picture. What are you kids? It's like, what's wrong with this picture, boys and girls?
Yeah. So Ronnie, the shop manager, said, listen, Ray, whatever you find wrong, just fix it.
Okay.
He'll pay. I'm like, oh, great.
Okay.
So I got the molded hose for the upper, which, of course, he had a thermostat housing that came out straight towards the front of the car. But the hose comes in from the right side. Actually, the left side of the engine, right side when you're looking at the car. Everybody confuses it.
Yeah, driver's side.
The driver's side.
Yeah.
So I had to order a thermostat housing with a 45-degree cant to that side, which, of course, now made the hose crash right into the mechanical water temperature sender that he had plumbed into the intake.
Yeah, okay.
Now, some intakes had threaded holes on both sides. This one didn't.
Gotta love Edelbrock.
Right, so I took that out and I plumbed it into the aluminum head. I didn't want to, because you want it as close to the thermostat as possible.
Of course.
But I had no choice. I put it into the...
it's better than wetting your finger.
Yeah, the driver's side head. So it meant, finding a plug to put in the intake and, different fittings. But I brought my my box with all my brass assorted
box
fittings.
of brass.
I brought it with me. I said, I stuck it next to my toolbox. I said, now I don't have to run home every time I need something.
Yeah.
And got that done, put the hose on, no problem. Bought a Robert Shaw full flow thermostat like I bought for my car.
Fail safe type, yeah.
And then I started looking around and said, wow, there's really no good grounds on this car. And he had 10 gauge alternator.
Ray saw bad grounds.
Yeah.
Watch out.
10 gauge, a crappy 10 gauge alternator power wire that had sketchy crimps. So
sketchy crimp. That's one of those bands that
the sketchy crimps, yeah. So I optimized that power and ground leg with 4 gauge cable And that stuff is expensive. It's it's nice to work with if you have the right crimping tool, which I did buy a hydraulic one.
Yeah.
So now the thing to do, kids, is what you want to do, like I did with this car, is you want to not economize. You want to spread your grounds out. The battery negative typically goes to, either the alternator bracket
or the front of the head.
This one, he had on the aluminum head, which was bad.
Right.
Bad. So I wanted to put it to the
right
iron,
to the block.
To the block.
Yep.
Or a point thereof. And also you want to ground. There's usually a threaded lug on the back of the alternator.
Right.
That's a ground.
Right.
So I grounded the alternator to a piece of the block with 4-gauge wire, then ran another wire from the alternator over to the front cross member, and then took the battery cable and actually shortened it and married that with the alternator ground at the cross member.
I now pronounce you positive and ground.
So now all of those grounds are common, and I have to look at the tuning of the car and startability. I'll get down to the starter and look at that as well. But I think I saw he has an MSD distributor in this thing, and then someone else built the car. And it looks to me like I got to look at a schematic. I think I'm seeing the stock coil wire, the power wire from the ignition. It looks like the original wire, which, as we know, has
it's got a resistor in it.
So that means the distributor
1.4 ohms.
So that means the distributor is not getting
full power,
full system voltage.
Right.
So which wouldn't affect it could affect the starting because you're not getting a full charge.
Well, that gets bypassed because when you twist the key, if it's got that funky little stock forky terminal on it that had the two wires. One was 12 volts coming up from the starter.
From the starter, right.
And then the other one is the 12 volts coming, it's about 8 or 9 volts with the key in the on position.
Right. Which I'm not sure. I haven't dug into that yet, but I'm gonna look into that, and I may just run a dedicated 12-volt wire.
Yeah.
Right to the from the ignition side, right to that coil.
It's pretty amazing how well these things run with just the. With the resistor in place, and if you got the right ignition system, it's like, what? I can't hear you. Could you talk a little louder? But it's okay. We'll take care of it. It's okay.
Right.
But it works pretty. Yeah, wiring is a thing. Definitely.
And the thing is, this car, it's got a healthy small block in it. I think it's a 383. I drove the car over the summer. And I really do. It just feels like, it kind of feels like a 383.
It's a stick, right?
It's a stick, 4-speed car.
Right.
I don't know what gears are in the back, but it's pretty healthy. The car definitely gets up and goes.
If it's a stroker, you can feel it pulling harder than your typical. Oh, yeah. It ain't no 327 enough there, 283.
Right. No, I didn't do any, I wasn't doing any hole shots in the car. It's someone else's car. I'm not doing that. Although the way the suspension is set up, it's made to take it.
Yeah.
But what I was doing was, first gear, take off, and then the first gear roll. Nail it in first, pull second pretty hard, and when you pull second and the rev start coming up, you feel that car say, let me go, let me go, let me go. And
you're like, yeah.
Hit it. Yeah. Fire. That was like cool.
Okay, that flashback over. Okay.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get behind the wheel of a muscle car.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Or even just hearing one start up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you get in cars today, it's like, then nothing. Or, if you got, here we go again. Yeah. And, of course, you get in a hybrid or something, you hear nothing.
Oh, yeah. Right.
That's no fun.
And then you work on the caddy, and the thing is like, let's see if I can lean this padded seat back far enough to get the right cuisine.
You need, every once in a while, you need to have the hiney vibrated, you know what I mean? By something coming out from under the hood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Talking about wiring, one of my customers / friends. It's funny how that group kind of melds together after a while.
Everybody wants to be your friend, Joe.
Nah.
Actually, I've been finding some new friends lately myself.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you know how to do that?
Yeah.
I know. It's kind of funny. It's almost like I had a Pez dispenser. Like, one of the people grabbing the top of my head and pulling it back. I thought they were trying to crack my neck or something. Well, my one of my buddies. As a matter of fact, he's the one that had that nice orange coat.
Yes.
His GMC Yukon had headlight problems. They were twinkling.
Oh, boy.
And, it's an older vehicle. And I was like, well, usually if you have like that twinkling, flashing light thing, that's almost always the breaker in the headlight switch.
Right.
All right, which especially that, it's like a breaker in a house. It's thermally activated, or it depends on getting hot. And after a while, they just get tired.
Strip.
Yeah, it's a bimetallic strip. It gets tired, you know what I mean? And it starts clickety-clacking every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, I gave some bad advice without looking at the car. I said, try a switch. Mm-hmm. That didn't work. Well, then I got my hands on the car. what was it?
Using the Switzer method of auto repair. You were.
Yeah, I switched.
Yeah,
hey,
switched.
That's another one. I switched.
We got to put that in the decoder. He switched. Yeah, that's a new one. Well, you're the only guy who's ever used it.
Well,
but
that is one reason why when people ask me, I got this car, it won't start. It won't do this one. I go, what color is it? What do you mean? It's blue. Oh, I need an ignition module. Well, what do you mean? You didn't even look at the color. Well, you don't want me to test it. Blue cars need ignition modules. Red cars need fuel pumps. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's either that or we check. Well, anyway, I got my hands on the car. And long story short, it was, what's one of my favorite things? We were just talking about it. What part of a bare ground don't you understand?
Exactly.
What had happened was the truck was in an accident.
Ah, boy.
And it had those pretty cool, what they call the composite headlights, which I guess were not available anymore. That's being 20-odd years later. It was a fairly rare option back in the day. So there were aftermarket replacements in there. And we had water intrusion in the connectors.
Right.
And so we spent the morning with a can of electrical cleaner and little tiny abrasive tools there. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I had one, but I couldn't find it. They have ones for trailers.
I have those.
Yeah, they're like little. They're like.
I'm trying to think of the tool company. It's three letters.
Stutz, something like that. Anyway, I did the same thing with like with a couple of picks.
Right.
And basically, it just ended up being like about 20 minutes of cleaning and giving the connectors a little tweak. You know what I mean?
Do you throw the picks out to the fans when you're done after you clean their headlights? Do you throw?
Yeah,
I
was doing that for a while. And it started hitting people in the eye and
doink.
Yeah, it's kind of the lawyers didn't
old
like
habits,
that. Yeah, they had the stuff in my teeth. Disgusting.
Yeah. Right.
But no, that worked out pretty well. Plus, what I did was because the sealing method that the aftermarket manufacturer used was not very water protective. So out came the tube with a good old dielectric grease.
Well, because that company probably the day before they were sealing like dumpling seals, and then they moved Then they moved to the headlight division.
It was kind of funny how like there was a fortune in that.
Yeah. You are screwed, my son. No light for you.
I like that. No light. Yeah, and that's it. We just packed it with some dielectric grease, tightened everything up, a couple of zip ties to keep the strain off it, and off you go.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was loaded for bear when he brought the car over to car ended up at the U day. And I've got the stack of wiring diagrams. I got the meter with the back probes, the amp clamp, all kinds of good stuff. I'm like, bare ground, loose wire. Yeah, my wife makes fun of me. Okay, where'd you find? I come home and she's like, "Where'd you find a loose wire this week?" It's my life.
Exactly, but it's so common, and it is a thread that we see all the time, and you can't ignore it because we've proven that this stuff, the stuff like you're working on something that was a factory vehicle that maybe had an aftermarket light conversion, which is common. Right. I'm working on a car that somebody else built and had their hands in it. And although it was built pretty nice, the guy who did it, you can see all the cabling that was in the car was done right with strain reliefs and with plastic coated P-clamps.
Right.
So the sanitariness of it was there, and the mechanical stuff is all there. The guy, whoever built it, was a good builder. But most guys, like we know, don't know and don't pay attention to the electrical end of it, to the system requirements, and especially the ground. So luckily that's where guys like us will step in and say, okay,
it's time to get obsessive.
So I was working with Junior and showing him how to make these cables, how to crimp them right, and then we seal them with I brought in some 1/2-inch shrink tubing.
Right.
Use a shrink tubing heater and all. Just do it the right way, and install washers, of course, to get a nice bite.
Yeah.
And I like to use either a flange nut or a flange bolt to get another level of bite.
Clamping is good.
Yeah. And that's there's specific stuff.
No paint.
No, right.
Paint is an important thing too, because nice fresh paint.
Glad you said that.
People flip out because you start scraping paint and stuff off on surfaces. Hey, I just got this car back from the body shop, or I just had this motor built. I'm like, yeah, but you want your little electrons to get from point A to point B. It's coming off.
There was a point on the subframe that I wanted to ground to, and it was a glossy black, and I said, hey, Mike, is this thing powder coated? I was hoping it wasn't.
Right.
Because I used my 3M Scotch-Brite wheels on a little 90-degree die grinder.
Right.
And I put it on, and it came off. I'm like, okay, thank God it wasn't powder coat.
Yeah, because then we'd have to be digging deep.
I mean, guys have painted blocks and put the distributor in. No ground for you.
Right.
There's all sorts of crazy stuff that's happened.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then what happens, too, is sometimes you get like a marginal connection, like going back to this truck for a minute. The